We meet every Friday. This is a forum to talk about probate, ask probate questions, just to a chance to improve our understanding and our knowledge around probate so we can be better at helping families who are in probate, and also so we can help people avoid probate because we know it's just a timely and expensive process. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today, was a lot of people just don't understand the cost related to probate. They often know that when you're dealing with the court, when you're dealing with attorneys, there are costs and fees involved, but a lot of times people just don't exactly understand what that is. The thing about the probate fees is they're statutory fees that are already predetermined by the court. So it's different than going to talk to an attorney and trying to figure out how much they're going to charge for this service and trying to compare that to what another attorney might have charged for the same service. The fees are already established by the court, is written into the code. And let's just kind of get into some of the fees that you would expect to pay if you have an estate that's going through probate. I mean, so at the very beginning, pull this up here. At the very beginning, you're always going to have the court fees. Now, these are fees that are not going to go to the attorney. They're pretty much going to go to the court, mostly to the court. So at the very beginning, let's just say that we're basing this off of an estate that's valued at $2 million. So for example, that the estate consists of one house. The house is worth about approximately $1.4 million. And then you have another roughly $600,000 in assets, stocks, bonds, and cash. Add up to another 600,000, bringing the total value of the estate to about $2 million. So that's just kind of a starting point. All right. So the initial court filing fee, anybody has to pay this regardless of the value of the estate. This is just the entry fee to get into the court. Say, hey, we want to file a petition to probate this estate, $465 automatically to the court. Now, when I'm talking about these fees, I am speaking about LA County probate court fees. I'm in LA County, Walter Williams, a real estate broker in LA County. So my specialty is LA County. The other, you want to check with your county to see exactly what the fees are because they will vary just a little bit. But in general, this is the process that you'll have to follow. Initial court filing fee. You'll have the newspaper publication fees. These are basically, the judge is going to say, in order for us to probate this is a public process. We need to alert the public and let them know if there's any heirs or beneficiaries that need to be alerted to this probate. We need to do it through a newspaper publication. If there are any creditors that need to be alerted to this probate, it needs to be done through a probate. Excuse me. If there's any creditors involved, then they need to be alerted to the probate. So the newspaper fees range throughout the county, but on average, you'll see them going anywhere from $200 to $1,000. But a good number, a good average is going to be about $300, maybe up to $600. That's just, that goes directly to the newspaper. The next thing you want to account for is the probate referee. Sometimes they have different names in other courts, but the probate referee is essentially just a third party that's hired by the court. They handle the valuations of the estates, coming up with the value of any real estate, determining the value of any stocks or bonds at the date of death of the decedent. There's really no way to get around that. Everybody has to pay that, and it's always going to be 1/10 of 1% of the value of the estate. So, $2 million estate, 1%, 20,000, a tenth of that, $2,000. The next thing everybody's gonna, not everybody, but a lot of people will need is a probate bond. A probate bond. This is simply an insurance product. It's just to make sure that in the event that somebody does something improper, or if they run off with the money in the estate, this is basically an insurance product that's going to cover the estate in the event that something goes wrong, or if somebody does something that they're not supposed to. The bond price is typically going to be determined. A lot of it has to do with the personal representative that is applying for the bond personally, the value of the estate, and the personal financial history of the personal representative that's applying for the bond. And then at the very end, whenever you get ready to distribute the assets and everything's done and you've done all the final accounting and you're ready to distribute everything to the heirs, the beneficiaries, you're going to have to go back into the court, and that's going to be another hearing that you'll have to have and present everything to the judge, make sure everything's on the up and up, and then just expect another court filing fee for that. So just in this simple example, when you add all these up, you're at about $5,000 in initial fees. That pretty much all of this goes to the court. You haven't even paid the attorney yet, and we'll get into that in a moment. The attorney definitely needs to get paid. However, in the probate, the attorney doesn't get paid until the final distribution at the end. So if you think about this probate process, it's been going on for 9 months, 12 months, sometimes a little bit longer than that, sometimes 18 months, and the attorney does not get paid until the very end, until there's a final distribution of the assets, which has to be authorized by the judge in the probate court. So how much does the attorney make? How much does the attorney charge? Like I say, these fees are statutory. You don't, they're already determined by the court. You're not going to be in a situation where one attorney charges more than the other. Like I say, it's statutory fees. It's already determined by the court, written into the probate code. So let's just take a peek here. This is the scale that's used to determine how much the probate attorney is to be paid at the end. So still using value of the estate, $2 million. This is how it's calculated. You take the value of the estate and you're going to charge 4% on the first $100,000. The calculation looks like this. You're going to take 3% on the next $100,000. And then you're going to add to that, you're going to continue the calculation. On the next $800,000, you're going to charge 2%. On the next $9 million, you'll be charged 1%. On the next 15 million, the calculation is going to do half of 1% on that next 15 million. And for anything above 25 million, the fees will be determined by the judge, a reasonable amount to be determined by the court. So if we look at this example that we have here, a $2 million estate, when you add up all the real estate, stocks, bonds, cash, the value of the estate, let's take a look at this and see what it would look like. Okay, $2 million. So we take 4% of the first 100,000. 4% of the first 100,000. We take 3% of the next 100,000. We take 2% of the next 800,000. And then the remaining amount of the estate is $1 million. We take 1% of that. So when you do the math, 4, 3, 16, and 10, you're looking at $33,000. This is pretty much how the attorney fees are calculated for probate, $33,000. And this is the money that the probate attorney gets paid out at the end. Now, the thing about it is, this is for attorneys and it's also for personal representatives. So your personal representative can be awarded the same fees as the attorney. So if the attorney can be paid $33,000 for conducting the work throughout the probate, the personal representative can be paid the exact same amount, $33,000, for the work that they did managing the estate throughout the probate process. And if it does take a year or it takes 14 months, that is real work, and they should be paid for that. Now, some personal representatives who are family members, they opt out of it and they choose not to get paid and just leave that money in the estate. That is an option that you have, but you also have the option, and it is allowed by law, allowed by the code, for the personal representative to be paid the same amount as the attorney. And that money will be paid out at the end in the final distribution after you go back to the court for the final petition to do all the distribution of the assets. So that's the short, skinny version. I mean, you got all these fees that anybody can expect whenever you start the probate. Like I say, the court filing fee, publications, the probate referee. In some instances, there will be a bond, and then the final petition to go back into court. And then you have to the probate referee is going to, throughout their work, they'll come up with a value of the estate. Sometimes there are some discrepancies, but it's still pretty close. Once you determine the value of the estate, then you just simply apply this calculation. You apply this formula until you run out of dollars, and that's going to give you how much you can expect in general to pay the attorney and pay the personal representative. Now, these are just the regular fees. If there's some kind of extraordinary fees, as they're called, that the attorney has to do in order to get this probate moving forward, they would be separate and in addition to these fees. And in that particular instance, it's usually commonplace for the attorney to let you know, like, hey, you're about to experience some extraordinary fees that are above and beyond what was typically done in the probate. Here is how I calculate my fees, and I'm letting you know that they will be separate from the statutory fees that would normally be due in the probate. So that's a good summary. If you have no idea how much to expect, that kind of gives you an idea. You add up all the assets, just add them up. Add up the house, add up the land, add up the cash in the bank. Add up the value of any stocks, bonds, or securities that the decedent might have owned. You calculate the value of those assets on the date of death and just add everything up. Apply your formula, 4% on the first 100,000, 3% on the next 100,000, 2% on the next 800, 1% on the next 9 million. Do your math, come up with what you can expect to pay the attorney and what you can expect to pay the personal representative, since they're both due the same fee. Okay. So let me just back out of this. Like I say, we do this every Friday, and this is an opportunity. It's a forum for anybody who wants to increase their knowledge in the probate space. If you want to ask some questions, if you got some clients, because you're a real estate agent, you want to increase your knowledge, and you want to, better work with your clients. This is where we just drop questions in the chat. Let me just take a quick look, see if we have any in there right now. If I can't get to all of them, then I will definitely just make sure to use those as additional topics for the future? I don't see any right now, but just feel free to drop any questions in the chat. I might not be able to get to all of them in one sitting, but I will get to them at some point and get you an answer. Okay. So again, I'm Walter Williamson, real estate broker in Los Angeles, specializing in probate. We do this every Friday as an opportunity and a forum for people to get together and talk about probate, get any questions answered, increase your general knowledge. And for those that we can help, we will. And for those who we can help avoid the probate process, we definitely want to do that with proper estate planning. All right. See you next time.